What's up, everyone? Welcome. We are live right now on CannaBuzz, and if you're joining us on YouTube, Spotify, or the podcast sphere out there, thank you so much for watching. We have a great episode for you today. We are honored to welcome Terry and CJ from Operation 1620. It's a veteran-led organization that's breaking down the stigma and building community through cannabis advocacy. So we're going to be talking all about their organization in just a little bit with Terry and CJ, but just before we get too far into the show, of course, I need to give some folks some shout outs. First off, shout out to everyone in our CannaBuzz community. It's our members only community that you can join for as little as $4.20 a month. And your support helps the show keep going. It helps send JR to events. It helps him go out to farms and film videos like he did last summer. Hopefully we'll be able to do some of that this year as well. And your support just helps this thing keep going. And we also give back to our supporters. We just had a grip of seeds that JR sent me, and we send out those seeds to our members periodically throughout the year. There's a sign up form once you join the community and you're entered in there, and then I just go through that list and send out seeds to folks. So join us over there. We'd love to have your support, and you can use the code BUZZ for your first month free. Also, shout out to lostcoastplanttherapy.com. If you want to use an organic IPM spray in your grow, outdoor or inside, check out lostcoastplanttherapy.com. And we appreciate Dirk for his support. And then last shout out from me before I throw it to JR. And then JR, you can kind of kick off the show today. We're going to give a shout out to our friend Tanazi over at sacred3mushrooms.com. If you want to grow your own mushrooms at home, check out sacred3mushrooms.com. He's got everything you need, a grow kit. You can grow edible mushrooms or other kinds as well. He's got everything you need, including instructions and all sorts of stuff. So just go over to sacred3mushrooms.com and use the code CannaBuzz for a discount. And JR, take it away.
Thanks, Q. For our Tiki announcements, I do want to shout out Tiki's sales that he's going on. He's got one crazy summer sale. He's got 50% off all of his clones at tikicuts.com and 30% off all seed packs at tikiseeds.com. And I believe you get a free pack with every order. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is Tiki Rain is something that we've been talking about. Having a lot of, special medicinal properties. We did some lab testing on it, and we found it to be very unique in that it was very high in CBDA and THCA, and it's tested for a lot of other cannabinoids, which makes it very special for medicine. And today our guests are going to actually be able to do a pheno hunt of some S1s that me and Indoor Dankster put together so that they could kind of hunt out some of these, in my opinion, pretty rare medicinal cultivars and offer them to the community as a community hunt. So along with the packs that we've already donated, we're going to go ahead and donate another 10 packs of the Tiki Rain S1s so that their organization can get through there and get some hunting done. We also have Brad with Raw Genetics offerings. He's still doing stuff with his Blue Slushy line, and he has that permanent marker by Blue Slushies, the blue marker. A lot of people are already finding fantastic stuff in there, so hit up rawgenetics.io for that. And then I'll go ahead and introduce our guests now. We are very honored to welcome Terry and CJ from Operation 1620. It's a veterans-led organization breaking down the stigma, building community through cannabis advocacy. Operation 1620 and the Balanced Veterans Network has been instrumental in helping veterans across reclaim their health mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so we really want to welcome both CJ and Terry to the show. Welcome to the show, fellas.
Thank you very much for having us, sir.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be working with you guys today. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our story with your community.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. I've been trying to get this episode put together for a long time, and I've just been waiting for the group of people and the organizations that I really bonded and connected with. And I met Terry at the Do Grows event. We spent some time at Scotty's, and really helped me understand, what the platform you guys are bringing forth to your community. And I think it's very important. And we're going to try to hammer through some of that stuff. But we always ask our guests when they first come on to the show how they fell in love with the plant and how has it helped them get them where they are today. And we'll start with you, CJ.
Oh boy. So I have a long storied history with cannabis. I'm one of the people that was an outlaw most of my adult life. I found cannabis at a very early age, earlier than I should have, like a lot of us. It opened my mind and changed me. I knew I wanted to be a soldier at an early age, though. So when I was 18 years old, I put the weed away and went and did my time of service. Came away medically retired from an incident, not in war or anything. I'm not a hero like that, guys. Don't give me too much praise. They just messed me up. And I got home and they give you some money when they separate you. And I got into the dark side of drugs and alcohol. And what happened to me in like 2015 is really started seeing cannabis as medicine when a doctor recommended it in Oregon when I was on a trip out there saying, hey, you should use this. And I'd seen it, all along. So I'd always been an advocate for that part of it. But having that doctor say it opened my eyes and really led me down the path to start healing with it. So cannabis for me has been with me for 2.5 decades. And I've been an advocate for the plant ever since then. The minute it touched my mouth when I was 14 years old, I knew that there was something special in this plant medicine. And it being illegal just seemed stupid then. And now I have a platform and a soapbox kind of to beat my drum and let people know that it should be available to all.
Excellent. And now, Terry, go ahead and tell us how you fell in love with the plant and how it's helped you.
Well, basically, my father, about 5 years ago, came down with cancer. He he passed, and but the cannabis gave him right at the end of his life. It gave him that comfort that he needed. And I just started using cannabis for the first time when I'm 47, and I'm 52 now. So I'm really new to the industry, but it opened up my eyes on what the plant can do for somebody. So.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, let's dive into your organization. So for folks like me that are new and not as familiar, haven't gotten the chance to hang out with you guys like JR did, which at the Dude Grows Cup, which sounded amazing. I'm totally jealous. I want to go next year. But let's dive into Operation 1620 and the Balanced Veterans Network.
So I'll take off with this. So Operation 1620 is one of the 5 pillars of Balanced Veterans Network. It was one of our founding pillars and really was an organization of its own to start with. It was its own nonprofit. And we realized that there's a lot more healing to do. The cannabis is just one part of it. So we went ahead and started Project Triangle, and that's where we help assist veterans with psychedelics, magic mushrooms, backing up advocacy and education on MDMA assisted therapies, ketamine assisted therapies, ayahuasca retreats, anything at all we could find. We have a movement pillar. It's important to stay moving. It's good for our mental health. It's what made us veterans. It's what one thing we all have in common is that we got out there at one point in our life and got after it, gave it our all. So bringing them even things like disc golf, something that's adaptive. Everybody can go do it. We have fun. And it ties right into our next thing, which is community. We all need this. And that's the big thing with cannabis that I found in my experience with this plant is it brings people together. So we're trying to use that to bridge the barrier. And finally, we have a mental wellness pillar. And that's exactly what you think it is. We need to address the mental wellness problems that we're having as veterans and in our society as a whole, and be the veterans who aren't scared to speak about it. Be the veterans who aren't afraid to have a cry with one another and talk about all the trauma and damage that has occurred in our lives, and be open and talking about it, and have peer support groups and safe spaces for veterans to have those conversations with and among other veterans. Because one thing that we see is that veterans don't always want to talk to somebody else, but they'll talk to another veteran. You put 2 veterans in a room together, and somehow, some way, our service will intertwine, be it his Marine time in Okinawa in the 90s, my time in Korea in the early 2000s. It's a bridge of leaving our country at an early age, getting reprogrammed and retrained to be a soldier or a Marine or a seaman, whatever it may be, and then going out and getting tossed into the world. I mean, that's the absolute truth of what they do. They reprogram very young individuals and throw us out there in the world. And when we come back, we need to have a safe place to go. Estimates are spending over $50,000 per soldier to train them, and less than $5,000 on us when we get out. So we're clearly trained to do something that's very unique and very demanding. And when we're done, there's nothing quite like it when we return. So our goal is to provide that kind of place, but provide it with this alternative medicine. Because I mean, everybody listening to this now knows at least the bare minimum of cannabis is powerful medicine, and we can really heal from it. Even if, like Scotty said, even if you're just smoking it to have fun and relax with your friends and giggle, that's medicine. That's healing, and that's what people need is community and healing.
So can
So
you kind of talk about some of the rates of suicide that happens, and especially within the last 5 years?
From 1990 to 2025, there's been over 150,000 suicides on American soil from veterans coming home. And to put that in a little bit of perspective, you know, if you Google how many soldiers have we lost in battle from 1990 to 2025, it's only about 23,000 soldiers that died on the actual battlefield. We've lost so much more here on American soil due to suicide. So
the number there that you'll hear quoted constantly is 22 a day. That number is about double. There's a new study coming out, and we're closer to 44 a day if you're counting things like accidental overdoses, so they say, or running into a telephone pole without skid marks or brake marks. Like those and a lot of professional opinions are actually acts of suicide. So our numbers are staggering. I'm going to throw another number out there for you. 17 veterans in the past 5 years have sent the Silver Star out at a VA facility. If you don't know what that means these people took their lives at a medical facility as a cry for help, as a way to show the world how messed up it is and how damaged they are, in hopes that their own life can save their brothers. Because at the end of the day, that's what all of us want. We just want to see people stop struggling and suffering. And if you're going through it yourself, please come to our community and reach out. We're here for you. That's the biggest takeaway. And if you're listening to this now and you're not, just share this podcast so people can find us. Because the hardest part about it all, in operating in the realms with cannabis and psychedelic mushrooms and all that stuff, is the fact that we are shadow banned on every platform you can come across. So it's very hard to get our message out. And it's really hard to reach those veterans who are isolated and alone. And those are the ones who need us the most. So every little bit of sharing helps. That's the biggest thing I like to take away. And that's why I'm so grateful to be in your presence today.
We really appreciate that a lot. It's, you know, it's something that I think people don't really, you know, take into account as a cost of I guess you might say doing business. You know, like you said, that number that's spent on you to get you out there is very disproportionate to the number that they're spending on you once you get home. So how did cannabis kind of become the central focus, and what other plant-based and fungi-based medicines are you engaging in as far as therapy?
Well, the reason cannabis became such a focus is because we can legally discuss it and advocate and have power for it and have the ability to give it to veterans in a lot of different places. The thing about veterans, we kind of a lot of them are straight-laced guys. They'll follow orders. They don't want to break the laws. So we're trying to end the stigma and break that down by having it available where possible. So cannabis was the big start because Operation 1620 was founded in Illinois, right as cannabis was coming online medicinally. And we kind of were just a group of people who were using it and found that we wanted to do something better. So we found that we could provide medical cards for people. That's where it all started. That's where the nonprofit started. We started providing medical cards in the state of Illinois at no cost and reimbursing the state licensing fees. And we've now grown to the point where we're able to help veterans in 32 states, Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. There's no cost at all for them. Once they prove they're a veteran and they come into our realm, we're able to set them up with a provider. The provider will give them their recommendation and they can file that recommendation with the state. And again, if they have state fees that are incurred afterwards, we reimburse up to $50 on those state fees. That's one of our biggest missions. And that's why cannabis is where it is. And with the other medicines, we advocate and educate and support veterans in all modalities of healing that they find necessary. Ayahuasca, psilocybin, ibogaine, MDMA assisted therapy. Last year, we went with Lycos to DC. We had like 14 of our members, talked to over 30 members of Congress. We were the tip of the spear on that legislation. They decided that we needed a little bit more research on it, and they wanted more research done on active duty troops, and that is happening. So it's really just time and energy needed. That's why we're out in Colorado this week. We're here at MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies Conference. We have two of our staff members engaging in conferences all day today, and we'll be set up at the show just trying to reach out and spread the good word of this medicine and get more educated on it so we can help our veterans who are taking it outside of the VA, which is over 60% of the veterans don't receive care through the VA.
Right.
And I think the numbers of veterans using psychedelic assisted therapies through facilities like the VA, I don't have a number on it, but I'm guessing it's less than 10%. I think more people are using these kind of therapies on their own because they're hearing about it on the news. They're hearing, oh, mushrooms help. So they're going to go get mushrooms wherever they can and take them. And our goal with that is educate them on where they can get safe, sourced, quality medicine, and then how to use it, and then help them with the integration, because you can't just take the medicine and expect it to work. You actually have to do some work with it. And it will really, the psilocybin in particular is showing that it reproduces neurotransmitters in the brain and can help people who suffered strokes and like neurodegenerate, like neuro breakdowns. It's really connecting pathways. TBI, PTSD, we're able to really heal these things. One quick more notes, numerically, they're doing studies in Oregon. They did a small, unique study with MDMA assisted therapy in couples. And they brought in anywhere from severe to moderate levels of PTSD. And they did the MDMA assisted therapy and peer support afterwards. 70% of the people who went through this no longer have a medical diagnosis for PTSD. Let me say that again. 70% of the people who went through this, from moderate to severe PTSD, had no longer a medical diagnosis for PTSD. These medicines can heal people, not just put a Band-Aid on it.
One of the things that we talk about is the things that the ibogaine, the DMT, all these DMT related medicines, your brain over time, especially as it experiences trauma, starts to fragment. And all these little pieces get torn apart and put in different compartments. And a lot of times you start losing who you are as a person. You start getting trapped in certain aspects of that broken part of your brain. And so what these medicines do is they center you again. They reset you as a human, who you are, the person inside you. And then there's the tools in your toolbox and the work that you mentioned that needs to be done. Because you can go have one of these profound experiences, and if you're not willing to do the work after that profound experience, you may not get the longevity out of that you may get if you're actually doing the work. And so all of these plant and fungi-based medicines are tools in a toolbox that folks can use to try to navigate all of the things that they've had to go through that's torn apart their brains. And it's almost like a computer hard drive being fragmented and then defragged and put back together.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's spot on.
I wanted to jump in real quick too. You guys mentioned ibogaine. We have an episode that we did about ibogaine that I was mentioning to JR. Does really well on Spotify for some reason. So people must be searching Spotify for ibogaine and it shows up. But if you want to learn more about ibogaine in particular, check out that episode on Spotify or YouTube. But I had a question for you guys kind of on the topics that we were just talking about. You were talking about the VA. You were talking about how, veterans are typically kind of rule followers, I guess you could say. And so something like cannabis or other, any of these other cannabis drugs or whatever you want to call them. Medicines is a better term. I was trying to search for the good term. Anyways, any of these other medicines, they don't want to talk about them because it's kind of taboo in society. So can you talk about kind of the struggles to kind of break down those barriers? I was kind of curious too, like you mentioned Illinois, when states become legalized, like when Ohio became legalized, do you see more and more veterans are willing to kind of entertain this idea? I was just kind of curious, what's it like nowadays getting encouraging soldiers to kind of open up to your message?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of the stigma. And how do we end the stigma is by being open and vocal and getting people to align with us. General Bergman, representative out of 5th District in Michigan, I believe, has been a huge advocate and supporter in psychedelic research and advocacy. So it's really about reaching our legislators, especially when we can find veterans who are empowered in Congress and our state levels and our federal levels, and reach out to them. Because I said it earlier, veterans tend to trust veterans more. And if you can look at a brother and be like, man, I realize that this guy went through 20 years of service being a straight-laced individual, and we know he's broken, we know the numbers are, but we see that he's had a profound healing, profound. It changes their mind. And I think a lot of the veterans are coming on board. Where we're seeing the most resistance, unfortunately, is the veterans of the prior generations, the last of the Vietnam guys who weren't the ones that went out to the hills and grew the dope, the ones who were spit on when they returned home and treated like trash for going out and being a soldier. And let's all have respect for the people that did what they did. It's a lot of crazy things going on in this world, but the young men and women who served are just trying to do better for all of us. So I think the stigma is it's just falling apart. Like I said, 2 decades of war. This is recent. This is longer than the Vietnam conflict. This is longer than World War II, this war on global terrorism. So more of our veterans are younger and younger, and they're growing up in an environment where Prop 215's been, cannabis was normalized in California so long ago. They didn't live a life where it was outlawed, right? We have kids that went to war already that don't understand what outlawed cannabis means. Think about that. JR and Terry and I, we've been around the block a few times, and it was real deal trouble for having this medicine. And now it's like, I had somebody recently reach out to me and he's like, oh, they're coming to my house for some other stuff. And I got a plant or 2 more. I'm like, he's like, what should I do? I'm like, I would leave it, my tent zipped up, and tell them it's none of their business. And if they do look in there, take your civil penalty of $200 and tell them to beat feet and come back with a search warrant if they need to do anything else. Because we do have rights now. That's the difference. We're operating in a place where we have rights. And if you're in one of those states that's illegal, I highly recommend you reaching out to us anyway and trying to get a medical card documented from another state. Because before it was legal in Illinois, I got my medical recommendation out of Oregon. And when they stopped me with cannabis and I went to the courthouse, I got a public offender because I was a single dad with no money at the time. And they said, this gentleman here runs a small business, donates his time to the community, donates his time to veterans, pays all his taxes, his kids squared away. He's not doing anything wrong. If they misdemeanored me, did what they had to do in the courts, and very shortly thereafter, cannabis was legal. But by having that card in my pocket and being open and vocal, it I feel maybe I changed that judge's eyes. And I had a good lawyer that did help. But get the card. At bare minimum, advocate for yourself, and we'll help advocate for you if you're too scared. We're veterans, we're loud, we're proud, and all this work we're doing advocacy wise, when we're at DC, when we're pounding our drum last week, standing with the VFW and the DAV and Grunt Style Foundation, and General Bergman was up there giving his speech on Capitol Hill the other day. It's not just for veterans. We're representing every one of you out there listening. The thing is right now they're highlighting us, and we're able to unlock some of these medicines with our stories and our experiences. But all of us have trauma. All of us have pain. All of us have been through hell. I mean, PTSD is real. Moms lose their kids all the time. That's as real as me losing my brother in war. These people need help. People are raped. People are in tragic car accidents where their friends are taken from them way too soon. And whatever it is, we all need this medicine. There's got to be better tools in the toolbox. Exactly like you're saying, Jared. It's been my statement for years. We need to have tools. We need to have options. Doesn't mean everybody's going to take them. Not every medicine's for everybody, but you need to give them options and educate them. That's the other thing. It's educating them how this medicine works, what to expect from it, how the different compounds can affect different things. Like you said, with the Tiki Rain, it has higher THCA and CBDAs. So trying to find doctors that'll work with us and help explain that to the community is vital.
Well, speaking of reaching out to people in prohibition states, and I do want to kind of reinforce that statement of getting a medical permit or any kind of medical license that you can, because not only does it protect you in the court of law, in the eyes of any juror or any jury, they're not going to be nearly as likely to convict on a medical person who has problems. But getting back to reaching out to those folks, how are you guys able to get your message out to prohibition land, and how do you assist people in prohibition in obtaining and being self-sufficient in the production of their own medicine?
We're grassroots. We're volunteer run. We're all volunteers at this point. And the way we do it is by exactly like we did this past weekend. We fundraise enough money to not only cover the cost of those medical cards and get some of our veterans healed, but we fundraised enough money through things like buying our t-shirts and fun swag to come out to places like Dude Grows and connect with amazing communities of other like-minded individuals who know the power of this medicine. A big thing we have coming up is with National Cannabis Festival in DC. For 5 years in a row now, we've hosted a veterans lounge. We have a 40 by 20 tent. It's a safe place for veterans to come, have their medicine, sit in the shade, get a cool drink of water, hang out with just veterans. You can leave your bag there and walk away. You know, we got veteran basically security on site the whole doggone time. And because it's cannabis, we all know that really unlocks a special part of the brain called the friendly part or the kind part. Everybody's just really cool. So the fundraising gets us out there. With that NCF, they're giving out 200 free tickets for veterans to come to that festival, and we help authorize them and reach out like that. Social media pushes. We get guys like us. We're in the VA. We wear our shirts. Everybody that's part of this, we just put on a shirt and people ask, "Hey, what is it? What's that?" "Oh, that's the Canna rifle." That shows where we were and where we're at. You know, we used to carry a gun, now we carry a joint, and we feel a lot better about it. And so it's grassroots campaigning. Like I said, we're banned on social medias and stuff. So we have our own groups. We have closed private groups specifically for veterans to have those conversations. Then we have open profile pages, and we struggle like all the rest of us. Our Instagram just got taken down right after Rasta Jeff's. I went and pulled up Pop 1620 and we got wiped out too for
Wow.
no reason at all. Supporting, educating, and advocating veterans is not cool on social media. So we just keep doing what we can do. We bang the drum. We find people like yourself who are willing to share it, and just ask that everybody gives it a share, right? That's what it takes. It's as easy as sharing something. If you know a veteran who's struggling, share it.
So, JR noted that you guys have an advocacy program. Can you tell me more about that and kind of what the core mission is behind that?
So the core mission behind our advocacy program, we have Eric Jansen is the leader of that. And we've stood united with other nonprofits, Lost Prisoner Project, the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Against War, the DAV, and we really just want to be the veteran presence in advocacy. We can't do any, lobbying as a 501c3, but we can just be there and explain our stories and share the stories of the medicine. So that's what we try to do at the advocacy part, is we try to get veterans in front of our lawmakers and our elected officials to share our story, because it can change somebody. When you have a guy come in who was a 20-year corpsman working with the Marines the whole time, patching up guys that got blown up in 2 decades of battle, and he said, "Ayahuasca healed me. I don't want to take my own life anymore. I'm able to love myself. I'm able to love my brother. I'm able to forgive myself for all the stuff that I blame myself on." Those little messages, those 30 seconds that we can get in front of an elected official can change their mind. So when they go back and there is a piece of legislature in front of them, maybe, just maybe, they can remember, "Oh, that one veterans group, they sent that guy in. Damn, he was healed from it. Maybe it's not just a party drug." So on top of that, we are working on building out our 501c4. Everything costs money and time, but that's why we're trying to bang the drum and fundraise. We're going to file our C4 so we can start doing some direct lobbying, because advocacy is one thing, but we're really restricted as a C3 on how much we can actually even go tell them our stories. It's about 10% of our time, energy, and money can be spent on that, which is very little because we have very little and we're volunteers. So Our mission with that is to file for the C4 and turn our dogs loose. We got some people who are very well spoken and very well understand how to navigate those realms in the state houses and in the federal houses to push the legislation forward that is most important. We were just, like I said, we just recently were in DC meeting with Representative Bergman at his statement, and just representing the veteran community, letting them know that we're here and we're not going to sit down. We're not going to shut up until this medicine is legal, not just kind of legal access for all 50 states, not crossing a state line to go get your medicine, then worried when you're driving back to wherever it may be, or only allowing cannabis infused drinks. That's a big one we're working on right now. I know we're going to send some people out, try to make sure these laws don't get passed in places like Alabama and Texas and the Bible Belt right now. They're starting to open their eyes to cannabis, but they want to make it like the alcohol industry, and that is not the right plan. They normalized alcohol for us veterans in our time of service, and we used it to mask our problems. I don't, it's okay for some people, but I personally don't want to get myself drinking a beverage again to feel one way or another. It's not the way I want to consume my medicine. It's a reminder of a problem that I had before. So that's a big one for me, is that the infused drinks. Go ahead, Gary.
And put it in a different way, the first year we went down to Washington, D.C., we had 0 senators and congressmen on board with our therapy sessions. When we left, we had 33 congressmen and senators signed a petition, or signed on that they were on board with the ibogaine and alternative to healings.
Wow, awesome. So as a part of this advocacy program, are you training like veterans that are a part of your program to be advocates and go out there and speak to politicians or press or what have you, or is it kind of like people bubble up, the real talented folks kind of bubble up or raise their hands or whatever? How does that kind of work?
Like I mentioned, we have a leader in that realm, so we send Eric to do a lot of it. But what we do try to do is we try to equip our veterans with the tools to become confident and informed advocates. And how do we do this? We do workshops on public speaking and storytelling with legislative education. Peer mentorship is a big thing where we just try to, like you said, connect that rock star with the other guy that's just highly motivated, so he can start reaching out and breaking down the barriers, even at local levels, because it is important as starting at your local level. Cannabis goes legal in your state, and then your town says, I don't want a dispensary. Well, that's no good if you got to drive down and you're disabled and don't have a vehicle or anything. So we try to give them that. We have digital toolkits and guides for engaging those local politicians. So we believe our veterans should be more recipient of the support rather than having to go get the support. So we find the people that are highly motivated. It's not for everybody. I'm gonna say it right here. I'm not the guy that, I don't want to go to DC and talk to them. My politics are, I don't really like to talk politics, and I'm not that person. So you kind of find the people who are strongest at what they do, and that's what we were good at in the military, is identifying those person's strengths and then sick them. And the rest of us team, we got your six doing the other stuff, whether it's teaching people how to grow the medicine, or supporting them in any other way possible. There's a spot for every veteran in our organization here that will find value for you. And you don't have to be, I know, it was mentioned, I believe, comment related. We take all veterans, regardless of how you served. If you can prove to me that you served today, you're welcome in our community. I don't want to lose anymore. I don't want to hear that, oh, he didn't make it through basic training or any of that. You know what? We don't talk about that. Once you're in the group and you're verified a veteran, your veteran status, you're a brother, you're a sister, you're welcome among us. That's the big thing. And it doesn't matter who you are at this point in your life. If you served one day and you tried, that's more than the other 93% of the world. So, I mean, we're 7% total active duty veteran, National Guard, add them all up. We're only 7%. Now you get 3 to 5 is active duty. We're lowering those numbers right now. It's a real small amount of people in this world. So why should we push the one guy away whose knee blew out when he hit jump school, and they said, well, you're done for now. You didn't combat tour or anything. I didn't combat tour. I was medically retired early, but I'm still a retired veteran. I should have access to this. I shouldn't be scared of, the veterans of foreign wars. Those places, I only want that. Or I think most of the nonprofits you'll see, and a lot of the grant money and a lot of the big budgets that you see are going to go to special force operators and combat only veterans. And that is a very, very, very small percentage of the veteran forces, especially when you go through the years, the Cold War era. People were doing all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stories out there about. I have a dear friend who I grew up with. Her father was a veteran and would never admit it because everything he did during 65 through 67 was classified, like total black ops. His ship did not go to that spot in the world, so he didn't feel he had the right to it. Well, they finally admitted. Was it 40 plus years after service? His daughters got the paperwork saying he was a sailor. Things like that are huge, man. Like, we can't forget any of them. Every one of
So
them guys are deserving of love and respect.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So when you're out there and you're dealing with some of the, there are folks in communities that are anti-cannabis legislators, and that's just their sole purpose is to make sure that legislation never gets pushed through. When you're getting pushback from legislators and agencies, how do you kind of deal with that and try to plow forward?
Persistence, keep telling our story and aligning ourselves with more people and getting numbers higher. So if you're the one that wants to be opposing, I'm going to bring 100 that are with me. So I'm going to win the game by sheer numbers and determination. You want to fight a battle with us? I got Marines in my corner. These guys don't stop. They don't quit, and we're not going to. How do we get it? We just keep showing stories. We bring empirical evidence of healing. Things like I said, 70% of the participants no longer have PTSD. When I give a statistic like that, how are you going to argue with me and tell me that they need to go back to having their other SSRIs and their other benzodiazepines? That's very first side effect is suicidal ideation. There's no way you don't have a stance. I'm not even a smart, well-educated person. I'm just a kid that joined the army and fixed air conditioners and stuff. But you can't tell me, Mr. Lawmaker, that there's not some power in this medicine. Why can't we at least, bare minimum, have the conversations and start looking and making these available? We don't need drugs in the schools and on every corner, but we need to have these treatments available and at bare minimum medical facilities looking at it, and the research done by people that are smarter than you, Mr. Politician, because you know politics, but the doctors and the scientists know a lot more than us. We need to listen to them and have unbiased studies done. So I don't have a better answer for other than we're going to be persistent and not give up. We started this in 2017. We've seen a lot of changes in the cannabis world, just huge changes since we started. And they're now calling psilocybin, breakthrough medicine. I truly believe that we're going to see psilocybin legally and federally before cannabis because they are getting so much science behind it. So the key is coming out to places like this. And when we talk to these psilocybin and other doctors, we also remind them that cannabis is still here. That's one of my big missions at MAPS is reminding people that cannabis is still here. And it's actually very vital to be used in conjunction with some of these other plant medicines. It can continue the healing and advocating for things like home grow because JR, once you get a hold of that strain and you're able to keep it and keep the clone and then share it with the community, one that really heals, they can take it out of the dispensaries because it's not the hot seller, but it's still the one that's medicine for us, and we can share it amongst ourselves and have that clone and always have that medicine available to heal. So that's another big part of my advocacy is homegrown needs to be allowed. I mean, for Pete's sake, people are brewing beer in their garage. They're not taking $1 away from Anheuser-Busch or Coors or any of those places. There's enough pie for everybody to have a nice fat slice.
Yeah, and as far as the home grows, is more than just going to a dispensary and buying some flour. You have um, uh, total efficiency and self sufficiency in your medicine, in that you're able to use every part of the plant. RSO is a very powerful tool in that toolbox to help you get through those nights. And the nights sometimes, when the lights are off and you're stuck in your own head for hours, it can be really stressful at times. And so to be able to use a medicine like RSO in the evening and be able to get a good night's sleep can set you up to have a better day and to start moving forward, like we said, working on the stuff that you kind of need to work on. We kind of want to move into the political platform. Um, so, what is the current stance for cannabis with the VA? And do you see things within that organization making a push to get access for our soldiers returning home and the ones that have already done what they've done?
Well, the VA in its standard fashion is slow. I mean, we hear about that forever, that they drag their feet. So it's slowly shifting. When I first took a drug test at the VA, they labeled me an abuser of cannabis and an addict, and they tried taking away my medicines, which is not always a really good idea. To just, you can't have that anymore if you want cannabis. So they are shifting. Um, they still cannot prescribe this medicine. That's a big thing we're working for on our advocacy, giving the VA doctors the ability to prescribe. But since they don't want to do so, hey, look, we got doctors on our staff in our pocket that are really willing to help our veterans out. VA doctors may now discuss veterans cannabis use in states where it's legal, and you won't lose your veterans benefits anymore. So you can go into your veteran doctor if you're in a state where it's legal, and like in Illinois, you can say, hey, I'm using cannabis and it helps for XYZ. It helps me sleep through the night. Like you said, that's one of the biggest ones. Is a proper night's sleep is the key to healing every other part of your body, your mind, your spirit, and your joints. They all need a good night's rest. So the VA is just really slow to move, but we're pounding that drum. And the more people, like you said, get that medical card, so you can go, hey, doctor in my illegal state, this doctor over here said I should have a medical card. I know I can't now here, but wouldn't you think it'd be a good idea? Maybe that doctor can then start speaking up a little bit. And that's the pure hopes that we have when we deal with them.
I know that, like, I have friends in the system, the VA system, and here in Oregon, many of the doctors are just kind of a don't ask, don't tell kind of thing, where it's like, even if you pop dirty, we're not going to really say or do anything about it. It's just kind of noted. And that seems to be happening more and more.
Yeah, there's really, I mean, what are you going to do when a majority of your patients coming through are users of cannabis, or
Yeah.
in the states where it's legal and stuff like Illinois or Michigan, California, like your National Guard and your reservists, this stuff's normalized like alcohol. I mean, you're going to drug test everybody on a muster for a reserve unit, you might lose half your unit. What are you going to throw all the people out of the VA who are healing? And I think, like you said, they're not asked, not telling. They're seeing it though. They're not telling anymore because they're seeing their patients are better. And if it's
Yeah.
better for your patient, then you might just be like, yeah, the best ethics of my doctor says I need to be put patient first, and any real doctor should be, and say, well, this institution might not be aligning with what's best for my patient. So I can't tell them, but I'm going to be like, just keep doing you, ma'am or sir, and kind of give you the nod and the wink. So
And did I see recently that they stopped making it an eliminating factor for recruitment?
I can't quote on that directly. I think past cannabis use is now no longer grounds for inability to serve. I just went by the old adage, I didn't tell them. So, and I got brought in 2000, and I had a cannabis arrest in 96 that I thought was when I was a minor. Like, that's expunged Sunday you're a kid. Well, when you get to your duty station and you're going for your top secret clearance, they know what you did when you were a kid.
Yeah, they're gonna run that in the
They
background
still
check.
let me in. It wasn't an issue at all. They
Nice.
just did some more background checks, and I don't know, whatever. They let me through. So I'm assuming that now, but I don't want to quote specifically. I will say, if you are planning on joining, just shut up and go. Don't tell them what you did.
Yeah. Our last question on this political side of things was about the states. So are some states better than others? Have there been like some recent wins or success stories in some states?
Yeah, so you guys, we know most of the states. Major breakthroughs, places like Oregon and Colorado have decriminalized the use or possession, psilocybin mushrooms. I mean, that right there is a huge thing. There's safe spaces for us to have this conversation. You're looking at states like Maryland and Illinois. They did roll out kind of messy with the equity programs in Illinois, but they're really working on fixing some of it. So I think that's a huge thing is the social equity and making sure veterans, people with past convictions, have the ability to get in the market, try to make something of themselves. California, I mean, they've been the trailblazers in most of this alternative medicine since Prop 215 went. They're really pushing psychedelic therapies and integration. There's more programs and more people openly having those conversations in the state of California than I think anywhere else we've been able to find. And believe it or not, Pennsylvania is squared away in it. They're doing a lot of programs that support veterans and trying to find ways to help veterans. I'm not a fan of the way they've rolled everything out in their state, and that's why we got to keep battling to make sure we can have home grow. But they are really looking into and taking what the veterans have to say accountable. We just signed on a piece of legislation out in PA for their home grow and kind of changing the advocacy work, the lobbying, new legislature. We signed on and we backed that bill officially as Balanced Veterans Network, because it's important to make sure we can sign on where we want. At least just give the support and give the nod that Pennsylvania needs to have home grow. Like, that was the big reason why we signed on to it, because I need to be able to teach these people how to consume their own medicine. Horticulture is therapy. At the end of the day, we all know, all of us that grow, there is something special about opening up your tent or your grow space and seeing your plants, especially when you get a new person and they pop their seed and it's this big today. And every day for like a month, you're getting a new picture. Like, God, look at how much it grew. Can you believe it? And then they have that medicine after it's all done and they put all that hard work in and they consume that medicine and they're like, I didn't know I could get that high. And you're like, that's the difference of home grow with love and dispensary weed. That's just weed, you put your soul into it and that plant's going to reciprocate. Same with the fungus. We teach people how to cultivate, propagate their own mushrooms. Food you grow at home, the tomatoes you grow at home are going to be better than the ones you buy at the store. This goes hand in hand with everything. And there's therapy in finding it. You're 2 decades of fighting wars, whatever, you're 40 years old like myself, you're retired. What do you got to look forward to every day? Your kids just fled the nest. Set up a grow tent. You're going to have a lot of joys brought from that. It's going to bring a lot of positivities to your life. And once you get growing, the positivities are spilled over to your community. You're like, hey, here you go. Here's a jar full. Like, you're like, really, a jar full? Like, well, yeah, I got 4 more jar fulls at home and I'm growing more, So it's nice to be able to share it like that and spread that love around the community.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, I think I was you just made me think about our audience, and if you look at the stats on our audience, it's no surprise it's pretty much all dudes, and it's all guys in their like 20s to 60s basically. And so I imagine there's a lot of our audience that kind of falls into the folks that you're trying to speak to or reach. Earlier you were talking about education. Education is something that's really important to us as well. Most of our audience, especially in the early days, was home growers, like you were just talking about, and we really try to help people understand how they could grow better weed, essentially. And sorry for the baby running wild in the background. But about education programs, can you talk more about that? You were just talking about, like, I think you were talking about teaching people to grow their own mushrooms, maybe it was, but could you talk more about your education programs and how those work, who's teaching, those sorts of details?
Absolutely. So we do have online education resources available on our site where we can mentor people through their grows and help them that way. We're doing in-person classes as well with the cannabis grow classes. We put on 4 grow classes in the last 2 years now. Most of them have been centralized to my area in the Chicago area, with myself and Bryce, the director of Operation 1620, are putting those classes on. But we've been working with DAV, the Disabled American Veterans, and we're trying to use their facilities and some of their network to start bringing our class around the country. We've partnered with Cincy Seeds US, and they are donating genetics for all our grow classes that we give and to give away to our community. So when we do give classes, we're able to send somebody home with a pack of seeds. We're working with real growers to try to get some, grow dots and recharge samples. Trying to put together quarterly giveaways for like grow tents and grow equipment for people who do attend those classes. Same with the mycology. It's the same kind of idea. We have the online program and we are trying to bring it out into the world. If you're listening now and you're a veteran and you want these kind of classes in your area, reach out to us at Balanced Veterans Network. And we'll try to set something up with you. So the goal is with that is we try to reach out to local grow stores or whatever it may be and try to, let them know we're coming, try to get discounts for them. We do a Cannabis 101 class as well. And this is for our mostly older veterans who don't have any plant experience. You see them and they don't know the difference between a bowl and a joint or a dab. It's all language they don't know. It was all illegal 60 plus years of their life. And they're just now wanting to try it to have a better end of life experience. They're at the end of their days and they know that all these pills aren't working and they're seeing it. And so we can teach them, how to use a grinder, how to properly pack a bowl. You see the guys, they don't know how to use the chokes or how to use bongs. They don't know how to pull the slides. We really like to make it easy enough for all these people and make them not feel silly when they're asking those questions. Put them in a room with other veterans, give them a cup of coffee and some donuts and just really make it feel like we're just shooting the breeze and in a welcoming way and showing them how to use that medicine. And with the Cannabis 101, something else we're trying to do is team with local dispensaries to then go there and maybe get some additional discounts beyond what they're providing already, because these people are very new to the plant. They don't know whether the cherry paloma is going to do them right or the tiki rain or the Georgia pie. Pick your strain. We all know that they're a little bit different. Everybody's endocannabinoid system is going to play a little bit different. And that's what else we try to educate them with is if this medicine didn't work the first time, don't wholly give up. There might be more. Maybe smoking it wasn't for you. Maybe you just need some RSO at night.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all you need from that plant. You don't need to go get stoned in the day. You just need to get a hell of a good night's sleep and not have night terrors and not have restless leg and not have whatever your XYZ, insert the problem. Just try to alleviate it for that minute and it'll improve their quality of life.
Yeah, you made me think about I'll try to make this a short story, but essentially here in my town and on the topic of advocacy, they made it illegal to smoke inside, and the topic that was being discussed at city council was people smoking inside at apartment complexes, and the people that advocated that got that through, they showed up with a ton of students. You were talking about showing up in numbers. They showed up with a ton of students talking about secondhand smoke and all that kind of stuff, and it was a very compelling story. But the conversation that I saw that got lost, and I don't think people understood, was that people that consume cannabis, sometimes smoking is their only method that they can use. Or, maybe there's other methods. And I just don't think politicians or you're just even, local citizen that might show up to the city council meetings or whatever, they don't understand that these different consumption methods are really important. And just because you have a handful of dispensaries in your town or whatever, doesn't mean that people have access to the medicine that they need or that they consume it in a way that, all these sorts of things. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing in terms of advocacy. And I just would impress upon everyone that's listening, veteran or otherwise, that you should be telling people these stories or advocating for yourself, because the flip of that is people are not advocating for you. I see the kinds of stuff that people say online at the very least or at city council meetings, and people do not understand how important this medicine is, and that it's really important that you have access to it in a bunch of different means and a bunch of different form factors.
And I also think that politicians really don't understand what they're talking about when they're passing these laws. I mean, we had a senator from New Jersey look us in the eyes and say, what do you think, that you can just plant any seed that you want? Yes, that's what I want to do. Yes, I want to find that strain that heals me and I want to plant it. That's my right. So.
And something else you brought up.
Sorry.
Something else you brought up there was the ability to consume in multifamily dwellings. And that's another big thing we've advocated on. I'm sorry I lost that, but to those of you out there listening that live in apartments, 100%. That legislation that we're backing in Pennsylvania, and I believe there was another piece in Maryland that recently that we pushed on, was a big part of it. It's the social equity and the ability to use. We can't hold people back because they can't afford their own home, right? If you got a medical diagnosis, now recreational can be something different.
Exactly.
But if you had a medical diagnosis, you
You
need to
shouldn't have
medically
to
mind
have a
your own
mortgage
business.
to smoke a joint. That's fucking
Yeah.
bullshit.
It's just another barrier. It's a way to block people from having access to nature. And one of the groups that we work with who kind of brought about that Ibogaine episode is decriminalize nature, because as human beings, much of the pharmacy, much of the grocery store, much of the church and spiritual healing lies within the realm of what is produced in plants and fungi and in nature. And so, for legislators, commissioners, and other folks to block any human from having their access to nature is a crime against humanity. It is our God given right to access nature and heal ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually in whatever forms that may take. And I think one of the things, part of the education part of it, that I wanted to talk to you guys about is, are you guys working with doctors and researchers directly to kind of quantify some of the experiences and even some of the chemistry that's involved with some of the things and how it relates to you, to your community members?
Absolutely. We have had some of our members work with some of the different trials in the psychedelics. We have a really great CBD producer, Dr. Gerald Knapp out of Pennsylvania area, who's been working really hard on understanding what the secondary metabolites have to do and how the different compounds and things beyond just your THC and your CBD come into play. So we've had him on we do a little podcast as well. It's called Bullside Chats with Balanced Veterans. And we had Dr. Knapp on speaking with us on how the different parts of the plant have so many different effects. They're showing that the THCV, I believe that's the one in Durban Poison right now. Not only does it have appetite suppression, but it's showing that it can really greatly affect people with diabetes to the point where taking high doses of THCV and reduce their need for their insulin and stuff like this. I don't want to misspeak. Please go re-listen to our old episode and let the doctor explain it more clear. But there is a lot going on, and we are trying to identify people who want to work with us and are willing to hear us. So the short answer is yes, we are as much as possible trying to get involved with people who are researching this, who have degrees and doctorates and want to bring this medicine into the next level. And it is very, very important that we have those conversations in a more professional manner, because at the end of the day, we're just soldiers and Marines and seamen where we don't have the education on that. So we do team up with resources to push those realms in the correct direction.
Well, one of the things I want to also shout out while we're talking about this is topicals. I think topicals, cannabis topicals, are one of the most underrated and underutilized forms of cannabis therapy, especially for pain and inflammation. I have a recipe that I've developed over the years from my amputation and tumors that I have that grow on the end of my severed nerves. And I share that recipe with all who are interested in making it for themselves. So anyone listening to the show, anyone in your community who needs that recipe, I'll gladly share it. And I'll make sure I get a copy of that recipe over to you, because it's like 20 years in the making. You know, I was injured as a 19-year-old kid, and I've been kind of going through that whole process. And so one of the things I developed was this pain rub and rest and topical, and that's something I would definitely like to share. And speaking of sharing, do you collaborate with other cannabis advocacy groups or cannabis brands to help get awareness out?
Absolutely, sure do. So I already mentioned once that we're teaming with Sensi Seeds US. They're a huge partner and supporter. We've teamed up with Grove Bags. They've done a collaboration of the Grove Bags to help us curing. And again, they just help support our work. Other organizations, I've mentioned the IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Against War. the DAB, the Disabled American Veterans, our VFWs and our American Legions. We're working with some of the long-standing halls. Those are very unique, and each hall has its own thing. So nationally, we are in touch with some of those people, but certain halls we have a lot better relationships with. We work with Lost Prisoner Project. That's another really great resource. They help us on our advocacy side. They help us when we go to DC. They support our advocacy work. We are working in collaboration with Grunt Style Foundation. Most of you guys just know them as a shirt company. Well, they are just a shirt company, but they're taking a lot of their money and they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're trying to push for these alternative healings, and they have kind of a loud voice and a big soapbox. So we're teaming up with guys like that. And another big shout out I want to give is Homegrown for Heroes. If anybody listened to the Dude Grows, and they know that Homegrown for Heroes was the recipient of all the leftover cannabis flower from the Dude Grows Cup. And what Homegrown for Heroes does is they're a nonprofit that distributes out cannabis to veterans in need. There's a whole sign up program, and Jennifer's running that. We have her on an interview on our podcast as well. She'll be joining us in DC at National Cannabis Festival. She'll be joining us July 4th at Pittsburgh at the city itself. We're setting up a veterans lounge. The city has asked us to come set this lounge up. It again is a safe space for veterans to come sit back and have a cup of water and talk about these alternative modalities of healing and how they might be best suited to find them. But Homegrown for Heroes, I mean, she's helping do what we can't. We can't give people the medicine themselves. She's got it squared away where she can. I don't know how she got it all figured out, but she dotted her I's, crossed her T's, and has her federal nonprofit licensed and is operating. So any of the home growers out there that have anything extra in there, they don't know what to do with it, and it's oxidizing and getting too old, or you have some extra RSO, there is a way to get that out into the community of veterans that can really use it. We want everybody growing, but not everybody has that green thumb. I want to say they do, and I'm going to change their mind about it. If you give me enough time, I'll get them growing plants. But in the meantime, what we can do is try to break that barrier down and get them some medicine.
That's huge. That's really huge.
Well, now that we're at the end of the show, I've got two questions for you. First off, and my son apparently has a question too. The first question was plug everything, plug your website, plug your podcast, social media, make sure that people know how to follow you and keep up to date with you guys. And then I'd love to also hear, what would you guys like to accomplish, a year from now, the next Dude Grows Cup or the Dude Grows Cup after that? What are some of the things that you'd love to accomplish as an organization?
So you can find us on Facebook. We have a Balanced Veterans Network page and an Operation 1620 page. We have closed groups for both those that are veteran verified, so it's a safe space to have those conversations. We are on TikTok. We are on YouTube, Bullside Chats with Balanced Veterans, okay? And that is also on Spotify, Apple Music, all those other podcast platforms. We're on most of them. And one really unique one I want to shout out, we're on Citizen Green TV. And that is a streaming service, kind of like Netflix. Think of it like that. But it's all veteran podcasters who are talking about exactly what I'm discussing here. Alternative modalities of healing, veteran stories. There's a small subscription fee to it, but it gives you access to all that content. So we're also on Citizen Green TV. And goals for the organization. Well, we've been around a long time, and I just want to keep doing what we're doing, and I want to do it bigger. We want to do it better. We want to bring our grow class on the road, and that takes support, likes, shares, little donations. Every penny counts. Right now, we're all volunteers. All that money's going back into our programs, getting people cards at these classes. Like I said, we give them away. Seeds, thankfully, we've gotten sponsors on that where we're not spending money out of our own pockets. We would like to eventually, as these grow classes grow and gain traction, be doing like a door prize giveaway, whether it be a new kit of nutrients or a grow light or a whole grow setup. That's a big goal of mine, is to every grow class have a door prize of a complete grow tent. In the meantime, we are trying to do at least quarterly giveaways of some kind of nicer piece of grow equipment. And then with our Project Triangle, we work with a group called Becoming Home, and they do a mindful microdosing program. Several of our staff members have been enrolled in it. It's a 6-month program that incorporates microdosing mushrooms and meditation, and it's really, really amazing the work that David and Cordy are able to do there with Becoming Home. So we want to be able to send 4 of our members next year. We want to fundraise. I know you guys are thinking like, that's it. Well, like, yeah, I did $6,000 when we're funding this stuff out of our own pockets. It means a lot. So I'd like to send four members out of our community to that healing mission next year. And our growth goals, we just kind of restructured as an organization, kind of placing me out of 1620 and running the show. We want to double our numbers every year. So if we're seeing 6 medical marijuana cards a month, I want to see 12 medical marijuana cards. If I put on 6 grow classes, I want to do 12. I want to start doubling my numbers. And when we'll stop, when everybody's educated and has that. And I don't know. And there's no stopping on that, because once we stop, it's all about integration and peer support. Because most important, what we're giving people is that community, be it in person if we can get you in person, but a lot of them are isolated. So we have an online community. I sat with somebody on our page the other night, and we just sat and had a session. This veteran is out of Florida, and his part of Florida, it's the highest concentration of veterans in Florida. We know there's a lot of retirees there. He's like, dude, I haven't sat down and smoked with a veteran in 6 months. This was so great just to have a virtual sesh. It refilled his cup. And then the last time we did an in-person event, we did like a disc golf tournament, and we had a lot of veterans come out, and you get people when they come out of their house and get those connections. It means a lot to them. It really does. We connected a father and a son at a disc golf tournament on Memorial Day. And they walked away, and the dad looked back at me, and his son's younger than me, and the dad's just a little bit older, Dad looks back, he said, thanks, me and my son needed this. And I'm a family man, I'm a dad. That hit home. That tournament, they weren't a veteran. They were a daughter and a father, though, who are supporters of us. They won their division. And the other division, the veteran division, was run by that veteran and his dad, who's a veteran as well. I mean, that's what it's all about for us, you guys. The numbers aren't important. If it's one veteran that we saved or one veteran we helped, that's one more that didn't have to help. But really, the numbers are staggering. If you take a look at our website totals, we've actually been able to show and document that we've helped over 54,000 veterans since we founded this nonprofit organization, with over $425,000 that we've raised doing it. And very, very little of that at all has gone to staffing. We are now 100% operating on a volunteer status. Some of our volunteers did get paid in the past, and it's all just about how we can do fundraising and what kind of partnerships we can have. There's been some dispensaries in the past that did a strain for warriors, and that got a little convoluted when they named it. They did a funny name on it, and it purged, and nobody bought it because it was, I don't recall, but so we're trying to find partnerships like that. But most importantly, what can be done is the simple liking and sharing of the social media, veteran or not. Hit those social media pages up and share them, like them. Sign up at balanceveterans.bvn.vet, Bravo Victor Noel.vet. We'll give it to you guys to put in the show notes. Sign up for our email list. Even if you don't open that email, when we go do our advocacy work, we're able to tell, hey, Congressman such and such, or this company such and such, we have 10,000 people we're roughly 10,000 right now on our email list. I would love to see that number at 20,000+. Veteran or not, it's as easy as just sign up. I don't care if it goes to spam. It's simply a marketing number that helps unlock stuff. And if you do get it and you do open it, thank you even more, because an open email, we can say that we've got 10,000. We do have about 60% open rate on our email. So thank all of you who are opening the emails. Just clicking on it, we're able to show those metrics to people who donate to us, like Sensi Seeds, like Grow Effects, that, hey, 60% of our 10,000 people open this newsletter, and you got a shout out for them. So it is just huge. It's all about sharing each other's information.
Yeah, that's powerful work that you're all doing in the community, and all of that, kind of boots on the ground volunteer work it's not easy to coordinate that. And people are very busy and very, life is complicated now. And so for you to be able to do as much as you're doing and impacting as many lives as you are from a volunteer standpoint is a very powerful thing, and it shows how powerful the message is behind your work.
That's what it's all about. We just want to help veterans. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to help veterans. We want to advocate for this plant. And I want to bring some of the community that I found in cannabis, that loving, kind community, that openness, that specialness that you find in places like the DGC. I want to bring that to the veteran community and know that, like, this is what this counterculture is, this counterculture, so to speak, these outlaws, these pothead hippies. Man, most of the old hippies were old veterans who got tired of it all and ran off to have their own freedom. At the end of the day, this plant just brings us together. It opens our hearts, it opens our minds, it opens our spirits, and it allows us to have these conversations to really heal. So thank you for giving us this platform to speak on tonight.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us this evening. We really do appreciate it. We really appreciate hearing your message and being able to get it out to folks in our community. Because like I was saying earlier, I'm sure there's folks in our community that overlap, and I hope they check you out and give you some support. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks JR for putting together today's episode, getting these guys on the show. We really do appreciate it. Thanks everyone who supports CannaBuzz, our CannaBuzz members. Thanks to our sponsors as well. You can get their links in the show notes. And as always, JR,
Growers love.
peace everyone. Have a great rest of your evening.